Have you ever scrolled through social media and come across conflicting content that makes you double think your faith? How do you deal with those moments when what you see online doesn't match up with your Christian beliefs? In this important episode of Be the 25, our tech-savvy guest encountered conflicting ideas on social media during a critical time in his life. Join us as Charlie Allocco shares how conflicting ideas can challenge our mental and spiritual well-being and how he found clarity despite the conflicting messages. So get ready, it's about to get real. This episode starts in 3, 2, 1. Welcome to Be the 25 podcast, the place where teens and young adults come to explore how to live the Christian life in a non-Christian world. I'm your host, Dr. Sharon O'Hara. Come join us and get your faith ready for the journey ahead. Well, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Be the 25, the podcast where teens and young adults explore what it means to live out our faith in today's world. You're all in for a real treat with a very special guest. Joining us is Charlie Allocco, a graduate of Liberty University and a tech-savvy young adult who owns Allocco Media out of Raleigh, North Carolina. Charlie's a super talented drone operator and photographer who's photographed over 1,000 properties and created over 200 amazingly stunning fly-through videos for realtors and businesses. Who would have thought that all those years playing video games would give him the steady thumbs and skill set needed for smooth drone operation? Charlie's also a talented content creator on social media. This guy knows his stuff. Charlie's been and always will be my go-to guide for anything involving tech and social media. That's just how he's wired. And he's also in the know about the complex world of social media. And this interview is extra special for me because Charlie is my nephew. Welcome, Charlie, to the show.
Oh, thanks so much, Sharon. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Oh, I'm so glad you're here. Now, I want to dive right into this. For many young Christians, navigating social media can be quite challenging, especially when you come across information that conflicts with your Christian faith. Can you describe a specific time in your life when you encountered conflicting ideas online or on social media that challenged your faith?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first instance that actually comes to mind when it comes to social media affecting my spiritual well-being was from a couple of years ago. I think it was 2022. The government had overturned Roe v. Wade, which now made having an abortion illegal. I have identified with a pro-life worldview for as long as I've been a Christian. God created us. He has a purpose for us before we were even born. And it says so in a couple different scriptures. Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 5. The Lord gives a word to Jeremiah saying, "Before I formed you in your mother's body, I chose you. Before you were born, I set you apart to serve me." David says in Psalm 139, "For you formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well." So I started seeing this pro-choice content on TikTok very passively. I think TikTok is a great source of different types of information. As you mentioned earlier, I am a content creator. I do creative work. I'm in the creative field. I own my own business. I rely on all social media, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, to give me tutorials, to feed me inspiration for my own work, and to share my own stuff. But part of that is also consuming things that I don't necessarily care or really want to see. And some of that is pro-choice content. You can keep scrolling. Maybe it's one out of every 20 videos. But I was seeing that a lot. And some of it, I think the kind that really affected me was it tended to pander to the, hey, as a man, you can't truly have a say in whether or not a woman should have an abortion or not. It's her choice. And then you scroll past, you keep going, you see a funny video, or the latest gossip or whatever, and you keep scrolling, and then you see another one similar to that. And I think that was the first time I became aware, because I began to really think, I was like, oh, well, maybe as a man, I don't necessarily have a say. Rather than like holding fast to the truths that I knew to be in God's word, I begin to think and almost identify with what's being served to me on social media. I was talking with my younger sister, but it was just heavy on my heart. And I was like, I don't really know where I stand on this. Is it my place to say, whether or not you should, kill an unborn infant? And saying it out loud for me, that's where I really started to see that, like, oh, this really is affecting me beyond just like a thought that's in my head and out. Similar to, you watch a video and then it's gone, and then you watch a video and it's gone. This was something that kind of stayed with me and was really starting to kind of taint and alter my worldview. And so it really left me, saying it out loud really was what it did for me. It left me with like a sour stomach. That's the first time I was really kind of cognizant of an encounter with any sort of posts that, or at least in recent memory, that have really made me kind of think about my spiritual well-being. And so it's really the first time I became aware of that what I'm passively ingesting on social media is having an effect on my faith.
I want to read a couple of scriptures, and it says this in Colossians 2:8, see to it that no one takes you captive through hollow and deceptive philosophy, which depends on human tradition and the basic principles of the world rather than on Christ. And then 2 Corinthians 10:5 says, we take every thought captive to make it obedience to Christ. So these two verses are saying, see to it that no one takes you captive, and instead you're to take every thought and idea captive and make it obedience to Christ. And that's what we're supposed to do as we filter through conflicting information on social media. With your experience, from what you've seen over the years, Charlie, what are some of the biggest challenges social media poses to a young Christian's faith?
I think the biggest challenge is really a twisting of the concept of self and our identity. You're scrolling and you see someone with more friends and followers, someone that's in better shape, someone that drives a nicer car, their family went on a nicer vacation, maybe they got into a nicer college, they've got the latest phone, they got the newest game console. You can list off a billion things. We begin to draw comparisons of ourselves and feel that we're not as good in any respect. And that's a really slippery slope to climb.
Sure.
A couple years ago, I was up in New Jersey visiting your sister, my mom, and my dad. And, it's 4th of July weekend. We're hanging out. My parents have a beautiful backyard. They've got a deck. They've got a pool. There's a volleyball court set up in the backyard. And I open up Instagram and I saw a guy that I went to high school with. He's now, I guess, some software salesman in Manhattan. So he's got pictures of himself on the rooftop restaurants in New York City. He's riding jet skis down in Mexico. And I'm in my parents' backyard and really, really felt down about myself, because at that time in my life too, I just took a new job at a university, which I hated. And I was living in a house with incredibly dirty and messy roommates. I moved back to a city where all my friends that I thought were there then started moving away. And I really started to just look at my life in comparison with this one person I wasn't even friends with in high school. I was looking at him and what he was doing and comparing myself, everything I stood for, everything I'd accomplished up until that point. And I said, man, like, I am not good enough. Like, I'm just not. Rather than say what it says in Ephesians, we are God's masterpiece. Whose opinion means more? This guy in high school that doesn't even know I'm looking at his page, or the God that has created the heavens and the earth? He says that I'm a masterpiece. I think that is more important. I think the biggest challenge really does come to, you have an infinite portal into the lives of others. The problem with Instagram, TikTok, all these social medias is that it is a highlight reel. Whoever you view is only posting the best moments from their life. That's not something that you should be comparing yourself to.
Good advice. Now, what steps did you take to clear your head and guard your heart?
I'm an all or nothing kind of person.
Really?
And I'm sure you know this.
Really?
Yes, yes.
Really?
I am either 100% fanatical about something or I really want nothing to do with it at all. And sometimes I'll go back and forth, but it really is on or off for me with no in between. So to kind of clear my head, it's really not uncommon for me to just do a cold turkey delete of all of my social media. More often than not, it's a week at least. And I think what's really hard is how addicting social media can be. There's so much genuinely useful content for me that has helped me in the business that I'm a part of. And there's funny things. My siblings and I are constantly sharing videos back and forth that remind us of our childhood or that we just think is funny.
I hope they're not of me.
Oh, they're exclusively videos of you. No, they're not. But I do believe that there is a lot of really good things to consume between the negative or worldview conflicting or altering content.
Mhm.
But sometimes the addiction is what keeps you on while you're unaware that you're getting challenged and battered with things that you don't agree with. It's like a very sneaky type of assault on the brain and on what you believe. And so for me, it's really just recognizing, again, and it comes from past experience too, recognizing that, okay, this has happened before and it's going to continue to happen again. So I just have to have a very cold turkey, delete it. I'm literally doing one this week. I called my fiance this morning. We were talking on the phone and I actually deleted TikTok again this week. And I told her, I said, well, I deleted it again. And she goes, yeah, of course you did. So I think it takes a lot of self-awareness or someone close in your life that holds you accountable to be able to know when to take a break and clear your head. And so for me, like I've become very in tune with what my mental health looks like, what my spiritual health looks like, in light of my social media consumption. I think a great thing that a lot of smartphones and devices do these days is they keep you keenly aware of how you're spending your time on your phone.
Right.
How long are you in your messages app? How long are you listening to music? How long are you watching a YouTube video? How long are you on TikTok? And having access to how I spend my time and having a quantifiable number to associate it with is kind of what can help me and say, okay, I'm not feeling so close to the Lord, but I also spent 15 hours on TikTok this week.
Let me ask you this. There's going to be listeners who are listening to this right now, Charlie, who are going to say, how am I going to get off social media? I mean, if you're on social media, like 15 hours on TikTok during the week, and then all of a sudden cold turkey, how does that affect your daily life? Tell us about that.
So it has certainly freed up my time, which is an obvious one, right? And I'm almost ashamed to admit it, but I think probably some folks can relate. I've once been found guilty of spending 21 hours in one given week on TikTok. That's 3 hours every day. I can't even watch a 3-hour movie, but I can somehow just scroll endlessly for 3 hours. I chose instead to binge social media and search for some sort of pacifying content, a funny video, something interesting to maybe learn something, some gossip, whatever. After working a long day, I've got a regular 9 to 5. Sometimes I work 16-hour days. All I want to do is just go lay on the couch and just stare at my phone.
It's all about balance.
Sure, it's all about balance, right? But at that point for me, it just became habitual. There were key points throughout the day where I had time set aside for specific things and instead chose to just choose the easy option. Again, I chose the word pacifier content because it really is like a grown-up pacifier. It's to fill the void of any sort of boredom. Look and scroll, look and scroll, look and scroll. So when taking a break from social media, I immediately gained back that time.
Mm-hmm.
And at first, it was really jarring. It felt like I lost the coping skills. Initially, I'd find myself checking random websites or the weather in different cities for no reason, just to fill the time. Like, what's the weather like in Cape Town, South Africa?
It might have been a part of a habit, too, of constantly being
100%.
online. Yeah.
When you delete these apps for your phone, you'd be surprised at how quickly you unlock your phone and your thumb immediately goes to where that app icon or the folder is. And when it's not there, you get frustrated because your brain is expecting that dopamine hit that you get from seeing how many likes you got or how many viewers on your story or checking a new video. And instead, there's nothing there. And it is a really frustrating experience at first. But yeah, it's extremely jarring. So
how do you transition back into a healthy balance of social media? How do you do it?
I can't just give up an app for a day. I don't find it very useful for me. I fall into the same patterns. The habits that I have are not broken at that point. It starts with the duration of, if you want to call it a fast or a break or a detox. They say the habit takes to break anywhere from 18 to 250 days, depending on the habit, depending on how long you've had it for. Let's say you take a week-long break. For me, that's enough to where I'm kind of settling into a new routine. I'm filling my time with different things. In getting back into social media, you really need to make sure that those habits that you've replaced social media with stay and that they stick. And that's a lot harder to do than actually say. But again, for me, the longer that I have a new routine in place, the harder it is to break it. The same way that we've become addicted to social media or scrolling through on our phones, we didn't used to do that before, but we made it commonplace and it became part of our routine. And so similarly, you can replace that with anything. If you get rid of that and you decide to replace that with time in the Word or daily exercise or whatever it may be, you can introduce social media back in. Of course you can.
Yeah.
But in recognizing what it does to you really does take a solid detox or break in order to fully understand and realize it.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
It says a lot about who we are, right? Like what you do with your time is going to be really what your identity is.
Yep.
To reestablish a set routine of something or to gain back that time lost, again, if you're going to devote it to quiet time, or maybe you have an accountability partner and you catch up with them, or maybe time with your parents or your friends or whoever.
Or your aunt.
Or your aunt, right? Right?
You know, there's a lot of Christians struggling with seeing conflicting information on social media, and some of it's causing them to doubt their faith or putting all these question marks in their mind. What advice would you give to them?
If, I don't know, the 15-year-old version of me heard this, I'd go, nah, I think I've got it. Like, it's fine. But it's funny how age and experience makes you go, that would have saved me some grief. If you haven't taken a social media detox, a break, a fast, whatever you want to call it, I challenge you to try it for 2 weeks. And I encourage young Christians and young people in general to try taking a break, even if you don't feel addicted or that it is a bad habit. There's things in life, I think, that sometimes can feel harmless, but sometimes cause negative effects in our lives. I think taking a break every few months even is healthy. That's what I do. Ask yourself 3 questions. What are you going to miss out on if you take a break? How important is it? Because there are some things you'll miss out on, and there may be some things that are important. But what are you going to gain from taking a break? There's benefits to both having social media and taking a break from it. You're going to gain some time. You're going to gain connection with the Lord if you are disciplined to spend that time. I also encourage folks to seek accountability. Talk with another believer, an adult, a friend, anybody, brother, sister, aunt, about what you're currently being challenged with on social media and what you actually believe. It doesn't matter if it's big or small. It could be, do you believe that tattoos are good or bad? Or it could be, is Jesus actually the Son of God? But I encourage people to talk honestly and open with someone that you trust and that you know has a solid walk with Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Very good advice. Looking back on your experience in the social media arena, what are the most valuable lessons you've learned over time?
The most valuable lessons, I'd say, is that if you're being influenced by content that's pulling you away from Jesus, and not just with your time, but it's changing truth that you know to be true, it's time to take a break and seek him. And that could be through time in the Word, that could be having real talk with other believers. Whatever it looks like, it's important to seek him. Your walk with Jesus is worth far more than staying up to date with the latest gossip, the latest trends, enjoying any sort of content, any of that stuff. It's far more valuable.
Anything else you would like to share with our listening audience?
Yes. So back in January, I had watched a TED Talk, and I've got the title right here. It's called The Battle for Your Time, Exposing the Costs of Social Media. This is by Dino Ambrosi. In it, he breaks down the amount of time people spend doing things. So on average, you spend 30 years of your life sleeping. So if you live to 90 years old or 100 years old, about a third of your life is going to be spent asleep if you're getting about 8 hours of sleep a day. 10 years of that time collectively will be in school or will be with your job. 3 years will be spent cooking and eating. 3 years doing chores and errands. 2 years in the bathroom, personal hygiene. 18 months spent driving. That leaves you with about 28 years of free time for everything else. Dino says that the average 18-year-old today is on pace to spend 26 of those years staring at a screen.
Wow.
And that's alarming because I almost didn't believe it. And then I looked at my own screen time. I encourage everybody listening, go watch that TED Talk.
We'll put a link to that in the show notes, Charlie.
I love that. Thank you.
Anything else we need to talk about, Charles?
I don't think so, Aunt Sharon. I've loved this conversation. I appreciate the time and for inviting me on. It's been really fun to talk with you.
Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day to not only share your story, but to give us things to think about regarding our use of social media. Can you tell our listeners how they can see your incredible indoor drone tours and your other content that you have out there?
If you have Instagram, go ahead and search up Allocco Media, Allocco Media. You'll find a whole bunch of really cool indoor drone tours where I, in one take, will fly my drone from outside, inside, out a window, in through another window. It's really fun, really exciting, cutting edge stuff. It's absolutely what I'm passionate about. It's like a real life video game. I love it. So if you like that type of stuff, go ahead, give me a follow. Love to see you there. That'd be amazing.
Great. And we'll put that information in the show notes as well. Now, before you go, I'd like to say, because, you are my nephew after all, I like to say how proud I am of you and the Christian man that you've become. You're the real deal. You're truly a follower of Christ, and you make your parents and Uncle Steve and I very, very proud. You, my nephew, are the 25. And I like to give you the scripture before you go. It's Colossians 2, verses 6-7, and it says this, "And now, just as you accepted Christ Jesus as your Lord, you must continue to follow him. Let your roots grow down into him, and let your life be built on him. Then your faith will grow strong in the truth you were taught, and you will overflow with thankfulness." Thanks so much, Charlie, for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Aunt Sharon. I love you very much.
And I love you too, and you better love me. And you have a wedding coming up in October, so I'm looking forward to sharing in your happy moment.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for being with us today and for being a part of the Be the 25 community. Be sure to visit BeThe25.com and subscribe to the podcast and to our helpful blog posts. We'll send you a notification each time a new episode or blog post drops, so you won't miss a thing. It's all designed to help you be the 25. Hey, till next time, keep growing, keep going.